Hey everybody, real quick, before we get into this too much further, I'd like to give a warning. This footage in the background has a lot of cursing, blood, and nudity in it. I'm going to try my best to not showcase footage with that as the main point. In certain cases, though, that will not be possible. So please, if that kind of thing offends you, listen to this video as a audio format form. I will not be explicit with my wordage. If that's all right with you, though, I hope you enjoy the video and hope you enjoy the background footage and commentary. Thank you so much. Enjoy. In the realm of video games, there lie worlds of unimaginable splendor, from alien planets, dark, depressed horror, or triumphs into an ancient past. Few games attempt to let themselves live in our present, let alone ones that stay grounded in our world, but to try to sneak just a peek into our future. The world of Cyberpunk 2077 is a breathtaking showcase of what we could look forward to in a measly 52 years as of recording, bringing forth a cornucopia of sights and sounds that seem so familiar yet unimaginable in today's society. I'd love to take a look at just a few things here, in this thriving wasteland called Night City, and look back on our modern day to see where we've come from and possibly the dangers we should try to steer clear of, lest this game present itself more in 1984 than we'd hope for our future. Cyberpunk takes place in Night City, a multi-tier metropolis stretching high up into the sky in a glorious artwork of steel, concrete, and glass. Down the streets themselves, you're inundated with imageries of perverse unbecoming of our modern attitudes, but would seem deeply at home in a locale such as Las Vegas, minus the grand hotels, of course. On the outskirts lie scattered settlements and gangs of roadsters, enjoying life to its fullest outside the hectic city, following their own laws rather than the ones deemed important to the corporations. Whether you live high up in the gleaming spires, kick it in the streets and alleys below, or gaze from afar in the safety of your clan, the world has become saturated with future technologies. The very bodies of your fellow man have become interchangeable, your eyes, arms, legs, and even portions of your brain modular. When do we begin losing our humanity, when each part of us can be taken out and replaced in a simple one-day surgery? We'll return to that question a little bit later, but the technologies beyond just us are significantly more advanced as well. AI-powered cars can ferry you across the winding streets while discussing seemingly any topic asked about. Pleasure itself has become commodified and personalized, where a simple deposit and scan of your preferences can lead to an idealized partner, even one you don't think you would normally enjoy. Guns themselves have become intelligent, with bullets curving midair to hit whatever target they've locked onto, all with a simple augment or tattoo to your hands. While those single day surgeries may be a little beyond us right now, I think most people can see the potential in all the other technologies there. Why couldn't we develop new eyes to see with that could answer a call and read the data of someone you just met, letting you know their name, occupation, hobbies? We keep most of that information on our phones anyway, so keeping it on you isn't much of a stretch here. What about your brain? Well, using technology called Neuralink, we can work wonders, providing a direct brain to computer linkage. A paralyzed man can learn to use a computer again, sometimes with even more efficiency than before. Who's to say in a decade or two we couldn't link up new prosthetic legs and arms to these chips in our heads, providing sensory input? As for the parts of the world that aren't us, autonomous vehicles are quickly becoming a modern commodity, with driverless taxis taking people around cities on a semi regular basis now. I'm sure many are aware, large language models like OpenAI's ChatGPT can speak to you in a scarily human way at times. For more personal endeavors, one only has to open up Amazon, see a list of recommended items, then move their eyes to their phone, see a Google ad that seemingly read their mind, proudly showing off many stores selling the exact thing you were wanting. Advertisements are only getting better the more we tell them, so when every thought could be sold to these companies, of course you'll be getting a very personalized experience, should you seek one out. Perhaps the scariest thing to me is how easy it is to harm someone else here, when your gun just needs to read your eyes to see the target you want to hit. It's a worrying thought that could one day hold the same kinds of devices in our future. To kind of back up that claim, we actually have guns like that today. Back in 2014, Darpa was testing out a sniper round under the program name Exacto, where I don't have much information on it, but the bullet could curve. Sandia National Laboratories as well, though theirs plays out more like the game, where it's a laser set upon the target and the bullet will find its mark. Scary stuff. In the modern day, personal data has become a bit of a hot topic in the media landscape, where the essence of you has become something commodifiable and exploitable, something to be gathered and sold. We deal with it every day, checking our phones to look up new outfits we like to wear, new places we like to visit, or recipes we've been thinking of trying out. It's all a part of you. Your wants, your wishes, your goals, all commodified into this tiny thing in your pocket. You get out of bed and go about your day with a little innocuous device tracking every movement. But it's fine, you think to yourself, as you tap to pay at a Starbucks kiosk, because I have nothing to hide. What about when you're in public, on the bus or tram? A massive full-screen ad pops up on your screen, proclaiming the powerful effects of this new butt acne cream, sure to solve your hideous blemishes, when you'd had a single pimple 3 months ago. But anybody over your shoulder could see it and think differently of you. Of course, it's not a big deal. People have issues all the time. But it's scary, right? To have your whole life be presented to companies who bid on you buying their products. This isn't the first time these kinds of thoughts have been on my mind, and they certainly shouldn't be the first time for you. We as a society have explored this Big Brother dilemma for a while now, yet seem to keep marching towards it. In Ubisoft's Watch Dogs, another game set in a slightly futuristic Chicago, you play as a master hacker and have the ability to instantly find the names, occupations, and hobbies of any citizen around you simply through their phone, a device you could merely put down and walk away from. What happens when we're the phone? When privacy is a pipe dream and the only thing stopping every secret you've ever held from leaking out is a company who can tolerate you until you become something noticeable to them from their high glass and ornate walls. And the push of a button could render you paralyzed because you made the mistake of trusting this company to put artificial organs inside of you, alongside their proprietary kill switches. A change like this from our somewhat controlled and regulated lives seems nearly impossible in some ways, and much too believable in others. A world where businesses own the very parts inside a person, and sometimes the person you are. It's a terrifying prospect. So, how did it come about? Began with the terrorist, Johnny Silverhand, who held a grudge against a massive Japanese company called Arasaka, decided to set off a nuclear bomb in their headquarters, like a reasonable person. After that insanity, a man named Rush Bartmoss went ahead and crashed the net as we knew it. Corporations would continue to grow afterwards, despite the setbacks, and worryingly so. They rebuilt cities, pushed the products aggressively towards the populace, and continued to exert their control. Some would begin to build private armies and fight their competitors openly, others investing in corporate espionage across the globe. They would go on to invest in biotech, making wonderful technologies that could augment the very reality of being human, sometimes pushing the boundaries to the degree of causing cyberpsychosis in unfortunate souls who cannot mentally cope with the augmentations they received. But I mean, that's the fault of the consumers, right? The people who chose to chrome up and overdo it on their implants. Others in GMO products, like Biotechnica, who spearheaded renewable fuel sources. But, well, why is that necessarily a bad thing? to let the companies push the boundaries to develop the market further than they ever could have in a regulated kind of economy. Well, when you're dealing with a private economy, you start dealing with repercussions of a lack of governmental involvement. Your doctor could say they're qualified, but they could barely hold the scalpel. Insurance companies can become militarized, guarding their clients who pay the most with ruthless efficiency, or ignore the ones who pay only the minimum. And what about those born into wealth, or who manage to make it to the top? You can choose that kind of lifestyle in the game, starting as a bigwig in your department, underneath a boss who seeks to consolidate more and more power. I think many of us can see ourselves in the same scenario, but in the game, it ends up being a form of suicide job, somewhat literally. You take the work and get caught up in the corporate politics and get shut down by the very company you've pledged yourself to. The scapegoat has become more than a symbolic sacrifice. In this world where your very body may become a product, your life itself may be on the chopping block. And what of those who come into the city of their own accord, seeking entrance to the benefits of city living? They're often considered outsiders, banding together and taking whatever work they can get, but never truly integrating themselves into the city lifestyle. They have their own issues to deal with, and their own laws for the criminals in their midst, who will often gather together themselves for their own ease of living. In my time in Night City, I feel like I've made very little progress in terms of social mobility. I may gain wealth and notoriety, have become a friend and ally of the nomads on the outskirts of the city, but moving upwards, the idea of joining that corporate lifestyle, to move on and be a part of that high society, it's an alien thought. But when I started as a corporate worker, my instincts were not to dismantle the corporations, but to reintegrate myself and try to fix them from the inside out. As a nomad, they didn't matter. Just a periphery bad guy in this land I was unfamiliar with. Many citizens in Night City tend to involve themselves in gangs, gathering together in ideologies, creeds, and just for mere matters of survival. Some, like the Voodoo Boys, gather together and police their own section of the city through matters of nationality, language, and belief. Others, like the animals, reject enhancements that don't improve their physical bodies, ignoring advancements like smart weapons or hacking. Others, such as the Aldecaldos, stick together as one large family, making decisions as a group, listening to each member. These gangs often have very open leadership structures. Again, taking a look at those three examples, we have the Voodoo Boys, led by Brigitte, an incredibly talented hacker who is an expert on the net and its functions. The overall structure feels like a religious and mysterious low-tech culture on the surface, though. The animals have a highly respected member named Sasquatch, a beast of a woman who wields a massive hammer, something you'd rarely expect in a macho, tough guy kind of a gang. The Aldecaldos have a joint leadership after you help out a woman named Panam, but even before that, decisions and missions were built upon an individual's ideas. Small groups could easily decide to cause some carnage of their own accord, with little in the way of pushback, if things went well. We see these kinds of trends of acceptance all over Night City, where people are judged on who they are. Who cares if the men choose to be more effeminate, or the women, like Sasquatch, choose to modify themselves into juggernauts of flesh and machinery? Night City cares not for gender, sexuality, or identity, just their actions. Out of everything in this world, that kind of mindset is the one thing I'd personally like to bring into our modern society. So why make this video? Night City seems more or less fine, beyond some concerning points of violence, but the same can be said for our world today. It's a status of point of warning. We have the ability to look at this kind of world and these kinds of technologies and ponder, what should we be taking from here? What should we leave behind and what should we be limiting? The augmentation of our form for medical purposes is, of course, necessary for folks without. But to make yourself different, just for the novelty of it, it's a trickier subject. And I'm not entirely sure how to answer that kind of dilemma. Do we forego the opportunity to enhance our lungs, to push further, to climb higher, to augment our eyes with artificial vision to see more? Do we drop the idea of a human and computer link, keep using our slow, clumsy hands for every task? Or do we embrace technology and the dangerous repercussions that can arise from the violence that enables? I can say that we do need to veer away from the corporate control, if nothing else. Going into the topics of shutting down your organs, which it feels like something no company would do, yet let me ask this. What do we see with car companies nowadays? We're seeing monthly costs for the features inside your car, and refusing to pay the monthly cost of these luxury features will lead to someone flipping the kill switch on the features that you paid for, even with the hardware in your car. But that's our reality today. In an overbloated, all powerful economy, one who can give you the hardware and the features that you pay for, who's to say that kill switch won't be a luxury feature that they include as well? What if they charge you for every breath you take? What about entities like Delamain? Robot taxis are here, but they don't need sentient AIs. Maybe conversational models in the future, but a quest in the game shows the risks of including sentience into our services. If the service decides to revolt or have a nervous breakdown, what do you do but reset it? Is that murder? I think every point here, in the whole video, really can be brought back to just one. Night City is suffering under the thumb of these corporations. The amount of control that they have leaves no room for people just to live their lives without bowing down. We can't care about the appearance of our fellow man or discount them for their quirks, not when all we can care about is survival. We have to accept the augmentations from the corporations because they give us a slight edge over those who can't afford them, regardless of what risks that entails. We have to group together, place lines in the sand because order has lost its meaning when the very laws are governed by whatever some CEO decides for the day. Gun violence lines the streets, homicidal psychos dot the landscape, and it's all because we've just given in to the greed and the rules of these unelected few. The few that have changed by what all means should have been a wonderful utopia, where safety is guaranteed, the sick and injured can be healed with little risk or effort. We're headed towards this brink, in some ways. Right now, companies can pay politicians exorbitant amounts of money to coerce them to bend to their wills. We call it lobbying. We do have some restrictions, but as the wealthy get wealthier, when do those restrictions themselves bend? When do the likes of Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg decide what laws govern us? This isn't just a Night City problem, though. Arasaka, a Japanese company, has an aircraft carrier parked nearby the city. Kangtao, one hailing from an independent Taiwan, is a global mercenary and arms manufacturer. Militech, an American company, arms police forces while simultaneously aiding terrorist organizations. Biotechnica, a European company specializing in GMO crops and all modern fuels, has their own small array of military equipment to work with as well. These global oligarchs change the course of the world and not just Night City. Is that not scary? Because I can see a future where that is our reality. That's a future I would really, really like to avoid.